Hey, everybody. Welcome into Day by Day. I'm James. I'm with Alex. It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks because it was a tough end of the year, but
Yes.
I'm excited. So it's been a while since we've seen each other.
Yeah.
We're going to get into a lot of stuff here tonight. We got a lot of coach talk to get to. Nebraska is going to have a new defensive coordinator. There's a lot of options out there, a lot of names being thrown around. We need to talk about big picture, the end of the year. And of course, we're going to try to rehash quickly Penn State and Iowa because we just didn't have it in us to talk about those games. And so we'll do that super quick. You can find the show on characterchronicles.com, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, all those places. Give us a like and subscribe to the show. It helps more people find us. Also, your comments. It's fun to interact with a few of you. Some of you actually have some really great insight, and so it's great to hear from those of you who listen. Thanks for tuning in. So it's been a while since we've had a show. I was so sick last week. I was in bed every day. I missed a family Thanksgiving, watched the Iowa game with a fever, and that only made it more miserable to watch that game. Not just under the weather, but burning up, body aches. It was terrible. We didn't talk about the last two games of the year, at least publicly. But I don't remember a more disappointing end to the season. I think you'd have to go back to probably that 2016-17 time around when Mike Riley was here and how those seasons ended to find as disappointing of an end to the season. I'm curious if that's kind of how you felt.
Man, I don't like.
We got blown out by Iowa both those years.
Yeah, I mean, those are up there. And where I'm going to go is a little bit deeper into postseason play, but Bo had that 3-year stretch of losing conference championship games.
Those are pretty bad.
Like the last one, like, soured me forever. The one against Wisconsin where you're up 17-3. What, and OU you were up 17-0.
Yeah.
And then you also have the Matt Rhule Wisconsin game where Melvin Gordon broke every rushing record known to man. Again, you had the lead in that game.
So was the game, the 17-3 game, was that the one that ended up 70-36?
Yeah, something like that.
That's just mind-boggling, right?
Yes.
But I will say, here, this is how far we've fallen. We were in a conference championship game.
Yeah, no, that's
right.
True. Yeah, but I think for me, James, you have to take into the expectations, right?
Yeah.
And
I get you.
I think you and I were both in that 8-4, 9-3 camp as a pretty good season. Now, I have freely admitted all week when talking about it that I expected the schedule to be a little bit tougher than it was. I expected Michigan to be better. I expected USC to be a little bit better than they are. I expected UCLA to be better. I obviously expected Penn State to be what everybody expected Penn State to be.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So I guess I understand that frustration, but I go back to those conference championship games and I look at all the NFL talent on those rosters, and B, at that time, we expected to compete for national titles.
Yeah.
So I think that's why those hurt more for me than the Mike Riley ones.
Sure.
Because even that year, Mike Riley started 7-0.
Yep.
It was a hollow 7-0. You didn't beat anybody with a pulse.
Yeah. So. I think those Pelini teams, they were so volatile. They were kind of like Bo's personality. You didn't know what you were going to get, but you always thought they had the chance to deliver a knockout blow, at least defensively, because of the way they played. I mean, they played like Bo's personality. And maybe there's people who are younger who are listening, and maybe if you're in your earlier mid-20s, you probably don't remember those teams.
No,
like you were a little kid, and you might not remember like how absolutely charged up Bo was on the sideline, and his team played like that.
You know what's funny
But
too?
it came to bite them so often because it was either all or nothing. It was either all or nothing.
I saw today when I was doom scrolling a flashback to the Iowa State game.
I saw the same because it was like to the day, right? It was
Do you like,
or not to the day? Sorry, because it would have been in it was October.
Yeah,
but it was
I just don't remember Bo like going ballistic that game, and we had 8 turnovers.
I think
we lost 9-7 and lost the turnover battle 8-0.
Do you know why? It wasn't his defense. That's why. So the one game where his offense performed poorly, where he did go ballistic, was the A&M game. But that, I think, it had a lot to do with officiating. I mean, there were some very questionable calls. I think I just don't know that Bo cared all that much that his offenses sometimes sucked, because I think he really believed deep down inside of him, we should not let the other team score a point.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Now, that's not to say he also wasn't going ballistic on the sideline. Like, I don't remember that game very clearly, for one.
Me neither. I've tried to block it out.
And the clips that I saw didn't show him going ballistic.
No.
It actually showed him rather calm on the sideline.
Yes. I think there was one clip in that sequence where they had to review a fumble, and they gave it to Iowa State, and Bo just kind of threw his hands up like, what are we going to do?
Yeah, and then in that game, at a certain point, it becomes comical too.
8 turnovers. The most comical one was the Niles Paul. He's running down the field. He's going to run into the end zone. They would have won the game, and he just drops the ball.
Yeah, just drops the ball. But then there's like a couple where like they just literally take the ball from the ball carrier. Just take it from him. The most fired up guy I saw in that clip was one of the offensive linemen yelling at one of the running backs.
It was, I think it was Kenneth Williams.
Yes.
Who's now on the radio here in Lincoln a couple times a week. You guys didn't know you were going to go into a time warp and go back to the Bo era. So back to this year, I think what we saw in the last 2 games of the year was a Bo Pelini coach defense like collapse.
Yes.
Now I think we thought we saw the defense at its worst against Michigan, to some extent against Minnesota. But the last 2 weeks of the year was really bad. And I never got the sense that we were ever going to stop either offense when our defense was on the field. They looked lost. And I think ultimately, and I think we agreed with this, or you and I agreed with this in our group chat with Mike and Andrew, that's probably why John Butler was let go. And we can get into what Matt Rhule said and kind of reading between the lines, but I mean, you give up, was it 77 points in 2 games? There's not many defensive coordinators who can come back from that.
No, I mean, first off, John Butler, thank you for your time here in Nebraska. But that being said, his only other stint was a 1-year stint in a rebuild at Penn State, and it was so bad that Bill O'Brien fired him after 1 year. And they had scholarship, they were on lockdown essentially, and which made that job harder. But Bill O'Brien was just like, this isn't going to cut it.
No.
And I know we're going to get into some of the things Matt Rhule said earlier, but I just go back to John Butler knew he was the DC coming into this year. He knew what the defensive roster was going to look like. And did, in my opinion, and I keep I keep using this as kind of a crutch, but I think it's very important for people to understand it, especially coaches. And I think coaches sometimes forget this. Your number one job as a coach when it comes to the field on the play, I'm not talking about developing the athletes into better people. I'm talking about on the field, in between the lines, is to always put your team in the best position to succeed.
Yeah.
If you don't have the talent to run this, if you don't have the personnel, I'm not going to say talent because I think this defense is far more talented than they played. If you don't have the personnel to run the scheme that you want to run, you have to adjust. Your job, number one job, is to put them in a position to succeed. Filling your run fits correctly is not a talent issue. And that was a huge struggle.
It's coaching.
100. It's either the player's not understanding it, so then it's a communication or a coaching problem. That's it. So,
and if it is an execution problem, then you put someone else in who can execute, which is still a coaching problem.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, did guys not understand what you were teaching, or were you a bad communicator?
Yeah.
Like that's what it comes down to with this group, because they were not going to be last year's defense. Nobody expected that. No. But they were talented enough to compete with these teams.
No. Now, I know people give Rhule flack, and I think rightly so, for in the preseason talking about, or in the spring, like I think it's going to be hell on wheels talking about the defensive line. I think he's and I think we talked about this privately, like he's probably trying to speak life into his line, into his defense, right? He's probably trying to get something out into the universe and saying, maybe this will come to fruition if I say it, positive reinforcement, all that. I think sometimes as a coach, he's no different than anybody else. Sometimes you just say things that end up coming back to bite you, because he's trying to, I think, to say to his team, hey, you can be this. And he says it more matter-of-factly. It doesn't happen. And so then what we're led to believe is, well, you were kind of blowing smoke, which is probably true. You were. But to your point, as a staff, and John Butler, I mean, it falls on him, but ultimately Rhule as a head coach this is where I struggle, like with his role as a head coach. If your defensive coordinator is refusing to adapt during a season, during a game, what is your communication with him like? Why are there not adjustments being made? If he only knows how to do it one way, okay, was that not a part of the interview conversation last year when you said you interviewed a bunch of people, including John Butler? Like, I would think, Alex, what I would ask a coach, if I'm the head coach and I'm interviewing defensive coordinators, I'd say, hey, we got two guys who just got drafted to, well, one was free agent. Two guys are on a roster that were on this defensive line. We got another guy who's a linebacker. He's now on an NFL roster. We can't run the same defense. I don't believe we can do that, but I still believe these guys are good enough to compete. Are you able to be flexible and adaptable and try some other things that maybe you're not super comfortable with? If he says yes, maybe he's lying. I get that. People lie. If he says no, why would you give him the job?
Yeah.
So we weren't in that part of that conversation, but it just makes, I'm fascinated by that kind of, by that conversation. What was that like? You knew what you were getting when you hired John Butler, and you still hired him.
Yeah, you just had a whole season with him.
And here's okay, I'm devolving a little bit. We're not talking about Iowa and Penn State anymore. It's over. It's so over. When Tony White left, like, he took the job, but Matt Rhule, did he not say some things that implied maybe it wasn't the best fit
Mm-hmm.
right? And then
he
what did we
also said, I've always had a good defense. I'll always have a good defense.
Right? And then what did he say when he let John Butler go? I don't know if it was the best fit. So, we know from just life in relationships, if you continually have, I didn't expect to say this tonight. I have no notes in front of me. If you continually have issues, personal, family, work, professional, social, whatever, and you're like, man, I just keep losing friends. Everybody says I'm a jerk. What's wrong with them? You're like, maybe you are a jerk, right? Yeah. Like I'm the common denominator here. And so when I heard Rhule say that this week, I was like, do you not know how to pick the person who is a good fit for you? Or do you not know the fit that you want or need? Like, what is your vision? And I know he talked about being aggressive, playing fast, playing violent. Great. I love that. I agree with that. It's more important than scheme. And he talked about that. But it was a little bit of a red flag for me hearing him say 2 years in a row wasn't the best fit. And I'm like, but you hired the guy. You're the one to blame. There's no one else to blame here. It's not Troy Dannon. It wasn't Trev Alberts. It's not a defensive assistant coach's problem. It's your problem. You hired two people, and then in a matter of 3.5 months, you realize, well, I guess Tony White, 2 years, he was with them 2 years. You're not the right fit. That just doesn't sit well with me, man.
No, and I mean, to expand on that, like we were talking about this a little bit before we came on, like Matt Rhule is about to hire his 7th coordinator at the University of Nebraska. 7. There is a small chance that it's 8 if you move Mike Eckler to the defensive coordinator. A move that I don't necessarily agree with. I don't hate. I don't think it'll happen. But if it does, then you are hiring another special teams coordinator, which would be your 8th coordinator. So far, he's hired 6. I'd say he's hit on 2 of them, maybe 2.5. Like, I'm pretty hard on Dana for grading his grade on the season. That being said, offense was still better than last year from a points per game, yards per game,
efficiency,
turnovers. Like, offense was still better. It didn't look pretty, but it was still better. So like at this point, you tweeted it out perfectly. Like, benefit of the doubt is gone. Like, no coach gets to hire his 7th coordinator in 4 years without wild success and more than one of those coordinators leaving for a different job on their own.
That's the thing. Yeah, if they're just crushing it and guys are getting plucked away by other programs, and then you're bringing up another FCS or a Group of 5 coach, and they're crushing it, and you're finding guys who can just grow and develop and their own personal professional development is just taken off, and they go somewhere else. Great, more power to you. That's not what's happening.
No,
it feels, Alex, rudderless and chaotic.
Yeah, a little bit.
The Nebraska football is this big ship. It's this big oil tanker out in the middle of the sea. Matt Rhule is trying to turn it around. We know it's not a speedboat. You can't just flip this puppy around. I get Indiana, okay? I get Indiana. But to turn this around, you need a reliable captain at the ship and a rudder that works, and it doesn't feel like there's a rudder. And it's like, what are you doing?
And some of that falls on coach. I think some of that falls on player-driven leadership
100%.
Too.
Yep. Which you had, like, I think last year in Ty, John Bullock. John Bullock was a walk-on from, I think, Burke, right? Is that where he went? Burke?
Yeah.
I think they were Burke boys, right? So, like, you got a walk-on from Omaha. You got Ty Robinson. And, like, I think those two guys, like, they left massive shoes to fill, and not just on the field. It's hard to replace that
Mm-hmm.
in terms of a player-led team.
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to see Deshaun Singleton, Javin Wright be more of that. We're not in the locker room. We don't know what it's like in the locker room.
No. Yeah.
But there's things that you can see on the field from those guys that I didn't see this year. And I don't know how to explain it. Some of it is how they walk, how their mannerisms, like.
Yeah. Well, some of it is too just like Nebraska just lacked explosiveness on the defensive side of the ball.
Somebody just step up and make a play.
Nobody, I mean, I'd sit here on my couch and I would say, my kids probably know I'd say this, like, somebody make a play. Let's go. So, because at the end of the day, like sports, like, I'm coaching these like little fourth graders playing basketball. Like we run stuff, we practice stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like fourth grade ball. Like some kid's going to go make a layup to win the game. I didn't coach him to do that. He just could make the play.
Yeah.
It's the same in college. It's the same in pro. Somebody has to step up, rise above the competition and make the sack, make the tip, make the pick, blow up the quarterback, whatever it is. Like you need guys who can do that. You can't necessarily coach them to do that, but then it always comes back around like, but who recruits these guys to come play here? So right. I know that John Butler didn't have a full recruiting cycle, but he was a part of the transfer portal. And to be honest, like, you think of like we thought they won the transfer portal last year. And you kind of look at this year, you're like, okay, Andrew Marshall, net positive. Everybody else, I think Williams Nweri will be, by the time he's a junior or senior, he'll be a great player. But you're like, okay, they didn't bring a whole lot in that would change the outcome for Nebraska.
What did you see in Watson Trent on film? Like,
yeah.
In that interview process, like, yeah, I get it. He was a tackling machine at that level, but like no shots against him. He just seemed to never be in the right spot.
Step slow and undersized. And he was a really good group of 5 linebacker.
Yeah, it's just everybody seemed to step slow. Even our athletic guys seemed to step slow. And for me, that's where I'm able to be like, yep, this is 100% coaching. Like we were messaging during the Iowa game. I'm a big fan of 21 on defense. Big fan. I think he's going to be a very good player. But he's waiting for the running back to come hit him in goal line defense.
At the goal line.
And I'm in a group chat. People are freaking out about that. And they're like, why is Rex Guthrie not running through him? Well, let's play a different game. Why is Rex Guthrie the first guy to get to the running back in goal line?
Like, I mean, as you pointed out, you're like, he's going to get run over anyway.
Yeah,
he just is.
His best opportunity to make a stop there is to wrap up solidly and hope the cavalry arrives. Yeah. And they never did.
Yeah.
Javin Wright is an athletic freak even after all the injuries, and he had shown that this year. But he was constantly a step slow. And so, like I said, this is where I fall on coaching. Like, guys are just processing too long, which means things are too complicated.
Yeah. And that's, and I don't know when I tweeted this, but, John Butler talked a lot about having an NFL style defense. I don't really care. I don't root for Nebraska because they're an NFL team. They're a college team. So, in Nebraska, what we've tried to do since Frank Solich was fired, on offense or defense, not always at the same time, thank God, tried to bring in NFL style this, NFL style that. Okay, that if you can play, and you'll get to the league. You will. Bring a system that you still, like, I know we talk about, it's like the NFL now. There are still rules that you only have so many hours with these student athletes a week. NFL guys, you got them all day long. They are literally there all day long. This is their job. You got whatever you do for practice. I don't know what they do. 90 minutes, 2 hours.
Weights.
They got weights. They still have to go to class. If they don't go to class, they're doing online class. They still have to get a degree. They have academic advisors, all that stuff. So you have a limited number, like make it simple so that they can play free and fast. And Rhule talked about that, and I appreciate that, but we have to see it. This is where like the benefit of the doubt is gone for me. We continually hear him say things and it doesn't show on the field. So it took him, how long did it take him to have an offense that he said wanted to be a power offense, a run dominant offense? It really took until about the 7th game of the year this year for that to actually happen. Why did it take so long? I don't know. We want to be physical up front on both sides of the ball. We still haven't really seen that. Why is it taking so long? We want to be attacking defense that takes the ball away. You don't ever, you take the ball away when the offense just hands it to you. That's the only time we take the ball away. We had 13 turnovers this year, takeaways. 2 of them were on kickoff fumbles.
Yeah.
So, like, why is it taking so long to get from the vision to on the field execution? I don't have the answer. I'm just asking the questions, but it's what makes me say, man, the benefit of the doubt is gone. It doesn't mean I think he's a bad football coach. That's not it. But there's something missing. There's something in the gears that make it grind and not smooth. And it's his job to figure out what that is.
The whole, we want to be power, we want to run the ball, we want to be physical. You know what it's turned into for me? We had the best week of practice since I've been here from Scott Frost.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
You can say it all you want, but at a certain point, you gotta show me.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing, like here's the weirdest part for me. Like, I think I've been pretty clear. I think like I've never been a Rhule homer. Like, I didn't want him hired. I don't dislike him. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he has a ceiling.
Yep.
And so, like, I'm not even as upset as the rest of the fan base, because we're about where I thought we would be this year. How we got there is a lot uglier than I imagined, though.
Yep. Yeah. I think we knew
he has to knock this DC hire out of the water.
So who's on your list? The lists are out there, right? Anybody could find these lists. And what I find fascinating, kind of humorous, is people put these names out, media, fans alike. And there's a part of me that's like, yes, you can call anyone, but people joke about buddy hires. And I'm like, but we know coaches hire who they're comfortable with. That's probably a part of the problem. It's probably a part of the problem. The best ones, the best coaches, you think of like Nick Saban, right? Never afraid to give anybody a call and say, I don't know you from Adam, but I really respect you. I think you're a good coach. I'd like you to come work here.
Mm-hmm.
How does Matt Rhule get out of his own way to find the best possible defensive coordinator?
So,
I don't know. I think he's right in saying, I want someone who can coach my guys up, empower them to play aggressive, and not worry about scheme. Scheme is secondary. I think that's great. Who's that person?
So I think Tim from inside Nebraska, my guy Timmy V, I think he put together the best list. Have you read it?
I have not read Tim's list.
Okay.
Lay it on me.
Former Cal head coach Justin Wilcox.
Okay. Yep.
Penn State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles.
Yep.
Broncos pass game coordinator and assistant and everybody's number one, Jim Leonard. Pitt defensive coordinator Randy Bates.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina defensive assistant Jeff Collins. Rising coordinator Scott Simons. I think that's been made pretty clear that he's not available to Nebraska.
Yeah, it's from SMU. Yeah.
Toledo defensive coordinator Vince Carey's. I don't like that one.
A lot of people do.
I don't. And it's because Toledo has like double the resources of the rest of their conference. Like I want somebody who's been a part of a Power 4 defense. That's really good.
So the interesting one, go ahead, keep going. He's probably got more.
Yeah, so Auburn DC DJ Durkin, former Oregon State head coach Trent Bray, Mark Stoops, Iowa associate head coach Seth Wallace, co-defensive coordinator at Louisville, Mark Hagan or Ron English, and then Nebraska defensive coach Addison Williams.
Same names that I've seen.
And then I have two that I like, and I've heard that we've reached out to at least one of them, maybe both. Tennessee defensive coordinator Tim Banks.
Friends with Mike Eckler.
Yep. And Chris Hampton, co-defensive coordinator at Oregon.
That'd be interesting. They're a very physical team.
Aggressive. They take the ball away.
They take the ball. One of the most, I would think, interesting names on that list that you would not think Nebraska could get, but because of the particular situation in his university and in college football right now, is Jim Knowles. We probably need a whole nother hour to talk about Penn State.
Oh my gosh. Did you see the latest
we'll try
report?
To fit in here in a couple. We'll try to fit in a couple minutes, or we just do it now. Let's do it now. Matt Campbell. Is Matt Campbell any better than James Franklin?
And apparently, boosters
Alex,
want.
Would you hire? Would you fire James Franklin to hire Iowa State's football coach?
No, and Matt Campbell is a list every time we fire. On the list every time we fire somebody, and I never won him then. And we haven't won 10 games multiple seasons.
I tell you what, I would love it if Penn State hired Matt Campbell. You know who else would? 17 other Big Ten teams would love it if Penn State hired Matt Campbell. I saw that report, and the report, the extent of it was the two parties have been in communication.
Okay. Pat Kraft is going to get fired over this.
I thought about that today. I thought he should be fired right now, but the university president or chancellor, whoever he reports to, probably doesn't want to do a football coach search right now with all the other things that he has going on his own plate. So here you have, you got an athletic director proving his incompetence for the job. He's gonna get fired, right? He's got to get fired. They're gonna end up hiring Matt Campbell, and apparently, I can't remember the interim's name. Terry, is it Terry something?
The boosters want him,
and yet he's interviewing potentially at UConn and another school. He's probably like, my alma mater is not, and I don't know that Penn State should hire him. I get boosters want. There's an emotional connection. Same stuff with Mickey here. I get that he played at Penn State, but I didn't think they should hire him. But like, they're not going to be able to hire him because he's gonna be like, you guys are kind of, poop or get off the pot here, and I'm just going to go find another job and support my family and move on with my life. Good for you. Go do that.
At this point. The best thing Penn State can do is keep the interim tag on him and let him come back for another year.
Do you think he'd do that?
Hell no. But that is the best thing you can do right now.
They signed 2 guys yesterday. They signed 2 out. Alex, their recruiting class was 2. 2.
Yeah, and James Franklin pillaged it. All those guys wanted to play for James Franklin. I hope he dominates the ACC.
I was gonna say I hope Virginia Tech is back. James Franklin. That whole scenario, I'm sure, as you know, as a Penn Stater, Matt Rhule is crushed over this. I get they friends with Pat Kraft, but holy cow, there's going to be a 30 for 30 on this someday, and it's going to be epic. We thought we had it bad back in 2003 when they fired Frank, and we had to wait whatever it was 64 days, 51 days. I don't remember what it was for Bill Callahan. We still ended up getting a pretty good coach, and I'm still convinced, and you are too. We talked about this. If he had the right defensive coordinator, Nebraska would have won a national championship with Bill Callahan. Bill Callahan was not a bad football coach. But what we're going to see now with Penn State is like you're down to what? Your 10th choice? I mean, imagine being Matt Campbell. Like, put yourself in Matt Campbell's shoes. You get a call from Pat Kraft, and Pat's like, hey, man, this has been going on. We're on day 60, and you're definitely not my first choice. You weren't my second. Heck, you weren't even my 5th or my 10th. But, I mean, that is not the way to start a relationship with your potential football coach.
Okay.
How would you respond if you got that call?
James, I said this yesterday in one of my group chats. The longer this goes on, the more likely I feel like it is Matt Rhule picks up the phone and says, Pat, let me bail you out.
I think I saw some people say something like that.
Like, the longer it goes on, I'm like, Matt Rhule. And this is what I was saying to you at the beginning of this process. Like, I think there's a really good chance that Matt Rhule turns it down a couple of times, and then Penn State doesn't hire anybody, and he's like,
they make an offer he can't refuse.
I gotta go save my alma mater. I gotta save my best friend's job.
So this brings us back to Jim Knowles, because I think the situation he is really unique. He's probably not going to have a job at Penn State unless it's Terry Smith, right? Terry Smith.
Yeah.
And if you're listening and that's wrong, forgive me. I think it's Terry Smith. If Terry Smith is retained, Jim Knowles will probably stay. But if he doesn't, you have a really good defensive coordinator with experience at multiple schools in the Big Ten who might be open to something at Nebraska. He's 60. He's not going to be here forever, right? He's probably on the final stretch of his career. And that would be really interesting. Now I heard people say, oh, it takes too long for kids to learn his system. It takes a few years to get it going. I don't know. First year at Penn State, and they were pretty good on defense. I know they struggled at times. I get that. They had their moments because of the whole, the way the season went with Franklin. But I was like, their defense plays hard, and Jim Knowles is a good coach. And if the most, the funniest thing Matt Rhule could do would not be go back and save his alma mater, but pillage it.
Yeah.
And hire away Jim Knowles to be the defensive coordinator at Nebraska.
I agree. I want to go back to this list real quick. I gave you one name that I absolutely don't want hired. I'm going to give you this
coach.
Yep. I'm going to give you the second one.
Let me guess. Well, there has to be more than just one. Trent Bray.
No, I don't have a strong opinion on Trent Bray. Like, I don't think he's in the running. I don't think he's a good candidate. Okay, there's a guy on here that is probably a good candidate, but I don't want him anywhere near my program. And it's Jeff Collins.
Is that the Iowa guy?
He is the South Carolina defensive assistant.
South Carolina assistant,
who is a longtime friend of Matt Rhule.
Is he?
Also was the head coach at Georgia Tech for Jeff Sims, and part of the reason Jeff Sims ended up in Nebraska.
Oh my gosh. There's some. Has he been a defensive coordinator?
Oh yeah. I mean, and he's been a pretty successful football coach, like across the board.
So why not? Like why would you not want him in?
Because he's such good friends with Matt Rhule. Like we were talking about, like, yeah, we know guys go hire people they know, like, but Saban has gone out and gotten people that he never worked with.
That's fair.
Lane Kiffin is retaining LSU's defensive coordinator. Like,
I didn't know that.
We Jeff Collins is probably a pretty good defensive coordinator. I haven't done enough research, but I know he's a really good friend of Matt Rhule.
At another school where you're not friends with the head coach. Yeah.
We already have Phil Snow, right?
There's that.
We have enough longtime Rhule confidants, and like we could say it about Scott Frost at the end of the Scott Frost tenure. Why can't we say it about Matt Rhule early?
Yeah.
You're surrounded by too many yes men.
Yeah.
Let's go get the best man for the job.
Yeah.
If that's Jeff Collins, so be it. But I don't think it is. And I don't think Jeff Collins is the best that you can get to fill that spot.
If he kind of bragged last year about how many people called him after Tony White left. You remember
They're not calling this year.
Call those people back. If there were really that many people interested, because the Blackshirts still mean something, which is kind of how Rhule put it, then you should have the pick of the litter, right? You should be able to find someone.
You should have a Rolodex.
And that's the thing. I think that they can pay enough. The issue is not can they pay someone. Now, before I go on, do you have any more comments about that list? I could care less. I'm with you. Pick the best guy.
Other than the fact that now we're, Matt Rhule said we have the money to go do what we need to do. Like, you're also, in theory, dropping about $900,000 off your tight end coach salary. You have more money to play with.
You do.
You can go get a top 20 defensive coordinator in the country and pay him top 10 money.
Will he do it? So I want to get into this. I put out a tweet yesterday and was read by a lot of people, and I caught a lot of flack for it. Problem is, you can't add a lot of nuance in one tweet, and I didn't. And then I did later. But I want to read this tweet and then kind of explain what I meant, because it plays into this conversation that we're having. I said, this was after Rhule's comments where he said, there was a really interesting press conference because somebody asked him about other assistants being retained. And he was kind of like, well, we're just, we're going to look at everything. But then he came back and said, but Addison Williams is going to stay. He's safe, which is really interesting. Maybe that's because of recruiting. Maybe that's because he really likes Addison Williams. I don't know. So I just tweeted, I'm sure Williams is a good coach, but this is what's confusing. And then I quoted, DC will have a lot of say in who's on staff. And another quote, except this guy, he's staying no matter what. And I just said, you can't lead an organization that way. And then I said, I know I lead one. And in the comments, what a lot of people felt I said was that the CEO doesn't have final say, or you don't keep your top performers. That's not what I said. What I'm talking about is the duality of collaboration and at all costs, I'm keeping this guy. Addison Williams might be a great coach, but the heart of what I was getting at, and then I explained this later in a thread, is here's what Matt Rhule should have said when he got that question. And this is where, like, he's so good, Alex. He's so good in front of the mic. But in my opinion, you might disagree. I want to hear if you do. I think he just absolutely biffed it. What he should have said was, the new defensive coordinator and I will work together to determine the best defensive staff to honor the Blackshirt tradition and put a winning product on the field. That's what he should have said. But instead, what he does, and I know the objection because we talked about this before the show. But instead, what he said is, hey, like, I'm going to trust this defensive coordinator. He's going to have a lot of say, except this one guy. Can't touch this one guy. It doesn't matter who the one guy is. That's not the point. Yeah, I could make an argument that they're secondary, that everybody should be on the chopping block for this entire staff. You can't tell me Addison Williams is untouchable. Like, it was like, again, you're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. And this defensive secondary had some issues. So what I was getting at was trust. Will the defensive coordinator feel that Matt Rhule trusts him? Because I think the conversations we've had over a year now is, do Rhule's coordinators really believe that he trusts them? To me, I don't think that trust is there. I don't think he trusts them. So then you back to the conversation we just had. Does a defensive coordinator want to come to a university where the head coach may not really fully trust him? I'm not talking about giving total control, laissez-faire, my hands are off, you do whatever you want. Obviously, that's not what happens in leadership, especially in football. But there has to be a level of trust where Rhule has talked about, like, I come in for work, I don't really know what to do. My coordinator's got it. Really?
Yeah.
No. What we're seeing on the field is not true. It proves that's not true.
If that is the case, if you really aren't involved in the minutia of the day-to-day with those coordinators, then you sure as hell better get involved.
Because it's been really bad.
Yeah.
So again, what I'm talking about is putting the defensive coordinator, the new one, in a very tough spot from the jump, where you're talking about things like fit and culture and philosophy. And do you see man and zone concepts the same way, run support the same way? Do you teach tackling the same way? So to say preemptively, well, this guy's off limits, it really just puts that defensive coordinator at a disadvantage. Now, the one caveat would be, as you pointed out before we hit record, if Matt Rhule already knows who he hired and the guy's good with Addison Williams, great. I wish we didn't live in a world where he just couldn't come out and say, hey, here's who we're hiring. You're going to meet him next Monday. He's playing in a game this week. I get that. I don't think that's the case, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's exactly the case, and how it might end up being Addison Williams. We don't even know.
Please no.
Like,
I know he's been a defensive coordinator, I think, right? Maybe a smaller school. I thought he had been.
I don't know.
I'll look that up. You chat. I'll look that up.
But I mean, like I said in my caveat, not really. Well, yeah, I guess I called it a caveat when you had tagged me in it. Was simply, even in the corporate world, sometimes when people are brought in to make changes, certain people are untouchable.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it appears that's Addison Williams. I don't know why that's the case. There could be 100 different reasons. But I also, like, as we're talking about it, I think it's really important to remember he just said Addison Williams is going to be here. He didn't say he's going to be coaching defense. He said he's going to be here.
Yeah, that's true.
That can mean a lot of different things.
He was the DC at Central Florida in 23 and 24.
Okay.
You're right. So it could mean a lot of different things. I assumed coaching, so that's my bad that I assumed coaching defensive backs. I guess, again, another layer behind this and the reason for the tweets. Again, it wasn't to say CEO or coach or leader doesn't have final say, doesn't have veto power, and also doesn't retain top people. That's not the point. Is there going to be alignment across the board? And in football, it's so unique. So it's different. Like, somebody used a sales tech example. Well, would you get rid of your top performer? I didn't respond because there were so many comments. I couldn't respond to all. So I said, it's not fair to anybody. I'm not going to respond to anybody. My thought was, well, yeah, if your top performer is still $2 million under the line.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Oh, he's our top performer. Yeah, but he's 38% under where he should be. And that's kind of how I feel about Nebraska's coaching staff. Is everybody was underperforming. And I know we go back and forth about Addison Williams. Pass defense, yards per game. They were 51st in pass efficiency defense, and some of their defensive backs had the lowest PFF grade in a few of their games in terms of tackling and run support. It wasn't pretty. That's why I go back to just saying nobody should be safe, but there's probably other things that I don't know about.
Yeah,
behind the scenes.
This comment that Rhule made, I'm going to butcher it, just essentially like, we don't want toxic people here. I think Penn State and Iowa, the defense had given up. Like, it just looked like they had given up, right?
Yeah.
It's true. And I'm not going to sit here and say John Butler was toxic, because I don't know. But if that's like at a certain point, you guys who don't want to play for somebody, you can't coach them. And prior to that, like, can't tell me the secondary didn't play their butts off against USC.
Yeah, but they did. They did.
So I think we could talk about run support and angles. A lot of that is Donovan Jones having to play a lot early on. And not to single him out, but like, when you have guys that are not up to speed with him, and Rex Guthrie both aren't up to speed, right?
Yep.
You have some guys overplaying. You had a lot of guys forced to play out of position this year. You had Vincent Shavers trying to set the edge a lot with one hand, which is virtually impossible. And that, again, this goes back to like, why are we not making adjustments to help players? So I don't. It's so hard.
I just don't want, what I don't want, Alex, is for this staff to continue to feel and be a hodgepodge.
Right.
To me, that, again, that's another layer behind my tweet yesterday. It's as a head coach, you have 3 coordinators. Do they actually get to carry out the vision that Rhule has? You know, they set the strategy, the tactics, the personnel, all that stuff. They decide that. You know, Mike Eckler decides how to block a punt, not Matt Rhule. He obviously lets Matt Eckler do that. So on offense, it just feels like a hodgepodge, right? We talked about Satterfield. We've talked about Donovan Raiola. You know, I know Emmett had a great year, but what about the other backs developed? Is EJ Barthel, does he fit with what Holgorsen wants to do? And then you look at
Holgorsen fit with what Matt Rhule wants to do,
right? Does Holgorsen fit, right? Sometimes I still think that feels like a Mark Whipple, Scott Frost relationship, where it's like, what are we doing? You know, and is Matt Rhule the one holding Nebraska back when we get really conservative at times? Because that just doesn't seem like the Dana way.
Yeah.
And so again, there's so many layers to this, and it makes me worry with another coordinator, the 7th one you pointed out. Will this be the time we get it right? Like, eventually it's kind of like, you know, what's the saying? Like, happens once, shame on you. Happens twice, shame on me. It's like, eventually the fans, we're going to say, like, shame on us. Like, we should have seen this coming.
I want to go back one last time, I'm sorry, to the Addison William part of it. We talked about this a little bit before. And take the name out. It could be Rob Dvorak for all I care. It could be Coach Brad.
Whoever.
I don't care. We talked about this a little bit before. When we hired Matt Rhule, I did this exercise, and it's going to be a lot harder to do it this way. But I was kind of explaining it to you. So when Matt Rhule was hired, I said Matt Rhule has to retain at least one staff member. Every successful turnaround that I could remember from a head coaching perspective, they retained one staff member. Typically ended up being the interim, but not every time. Obviously, when Matt Rhule got the job, that became really hard. It became really hard to keep the interim for various reasons.
Yes.
So he kept Donnie.
Yeah.
But you know, I rattled it off for you. Kirby Smart did it. I think Steve Sarkisian just did it at Texas, but Urban did it at Florida. He did it at Ohio State. Saban did it at Bama. Like, everybody's done it. They've kept at least one person. It's not always a coordinator. Sometimes it's a position coach. I'm really curious, and I'm going to try and do it, but I have to think of coordinators who have been fired and their replacements that have had major turnarounds and how much of the previous staff they held on. Because we talked about it. A lot of times, if you have a defensive or offensive coordinator hired away for a head coaching position or a better coordinator job, and you have to replace them, if position coaches didn't leave, they're just coming in and they're not firing guys for coming off successful seasons. They're not firing the running back coach because the offense just put up, 35 points a game, whatever it is. Like, you're not just replacing people to replace them because you're the new guy. You're coming in like, okay, how do I keep this going? But it's different when you're firing people and not just replacing them for moving up. So I'm going to try and do some homework over the weekend and find some comparable situations and see what that looks like.
I'd be fascinated to know.
Yeah.
I bet you there is a high correlation. Obviously, the other side, you talk success in terms of on the field, but what does transfer rate? I mean, I don't want to give you more homework, but what do transfer rates look like? Like, how many guys stick around? Like, if you can measure morale, which I'm we wouldn't be able to find that out, but like, what is that like? And so you go back to like who Matt retained, and right, it was Donovan Raiola. I think a lot of us we were confused by that because of how the offensive line had performed. What if it would have been, I'm just throwing it out there, what if it would have been a Bill Bush instead? What would it have done to Nebraska football in that first year if Bill Bush was the special teams coordinator, not Ed Foley?
You're having a wildly different year.
This, to me, it just goes back to, I know people probably think like you're going like scorched earth on Matt Rhule. Maybe a little bit. He has shown repeatedly poor judgment in who he hires.
Yeah, I mean, I asked you this question in the group chat, like, what has he done? And this is a legitimate question, I think. What has he done to give us confidence that he's going to get this hire right?
Nothing.
Supposedly, it was a very attractive job last year, and you hired John Butler.
I know. It's because he promised it to him, which is, you should just never do that. Should have never done that. I know John Butler wanted to be a defensive coordinator. He should have cut his teeth somewhere else.
Yeah.
Not here. Not here. Well, it'll be fascinating. I doubt by the time we record next week, we'll have a new defensive coordinator.
Yeah, because our new defensive coordinator is going to be in the playoffs, right?
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
There's 12 options. Who would it be? We can dream.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll call it quits there. We covered a lot of ground. We still didn't even talk about some things I wanted to get to, but
we got a long off season.
We got a long off season. I wouldn't say that I feel hopeless, but I will say again, I keep going back to the benefit of the doubt is gone. There's no Kool-Aid. There's no hype aid. You look at that schedule next year, and as it is right now, if you and I were to sit and Andrew were to join us and we were to do a show on what do we think Nebraska is going to be, it's like, looks like 5-7, 6-6. I'm not gonna wear scarlet colored glasses anymore and expect more from this team that has not proven they can give us more. And that doesn't mean I'm not a fan. It just means, you know what? Like, I'm going to try to temper my expectations so that it's appropriate.
Yeah. Done with the heartbreak.
Done with the heartbreak. I mean, I picked Iowa to win. I picked Iowa to win.
And I still felt bad.
I still felt bad. I think on the show, we didn't do a show. I did it on Twitter. I said 27-14 Iowa. I was still ticked off. But what did I expect? I mean, we knew what was going to happen, and it happened. The exact thing happened. It was a repeat performance of the previous week. So I'm done with the glass half full, because it's not. It's half empty. Doesn't mean I don't love Nebraska any less. I love them. Love this school to death. We're probably going to go to the Final Four in basketball, so that'll make up for it.
Big games Sunday.
Probably going to win the national championship in volleyball, which will make up for it. So, we're rolling. Big game Sunday. I can't wait. Let's talk about that next week. Let's talk about Nebraska Creighton basketball. Maybe we'll take
I think Nebraska wins. Nebraska wins by 12-15.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll see though. I'm really excited. Later in the month, they get Oogie back. I think that's going to change the outlook for them in the front court quite a bit. But okay, we'll get to. We're already over an hour. We'll get to that next time. So, all right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you all. We'll talk to you next time. As always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.